Welcome to the flipped instructional session for Math 08B for Unit 602, Use the Pythagorean Theorem. Our objective today is to use the Pythagorean Theorem to find an unknown side length of a right triangle. We do have two definitions, the Pythagorean Theorem, and any right triangle, the square of the length of the hypotenuse equals the sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs. And a right triangle is a triangle with a right angle. So let's break that down a little bit. So here is our right triangle. So the legs are here, and here's our hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always directly across from the right angle, and is also the longest of the sides. So these are the legs. Here's the hypotenuse. This is a right triangle because it has a right angle. In the Pythagorean theorem, we call the legs A and B, and it doesn't matter which one's A and which one's B, but the hypotenuse is C, and that does matter. C has to be the hypotenuse, which is the longest side. And so the Pythagorean theorem says A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. And we need to be really careful with these squares, and we'll eventually square root. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's just revisit something to a power. Negative 2 to the fourth power means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So this is also 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So that's just a reminder of if this is in parentheses, the negative comes with it when you evaluate that exponent. So let's take a look here. It says, which equation can we use to find the value of x? So here we see it's a right triangle. So we know that a squared plus b squared equal to c squared. So now we just need to plug these things in. Remember, the side across, directly across from the 90 degrees is the hypotenuse, which is c. So we can call this a and this b, or flip them, it doesn't matter. 15 squared plus x squared equals 17 squared. So a and b don't work, there's no squareds. C works because it has that 17 squared as the hypotenuse, because x squared plus 15 squared is the same as this. But you have to have that 17 squared by itself. So now we are going to find the value of x. So we just said that 15 squared plus x squared is equal to 17 squared. So this is where you need to be careful. We can move things around, but what I like to do is, especially when you're first starting, let's just do 15 squared first, which is 225, and then 17 squared, which is 289. Subtract 225 from both sides to get x by itself. Which is 64. So a lot of people stop here, but this says x squared. So how do we undo squaring? We square root. So the square and the square root cancel, so we're left with x. The square root of 64, we're looking for a number times itself to give us 64. So that is 8, and our units are feet. So let's take a look at another one. We see it's a right triangle, so we know we can use the Pythagorean theorem. So we need to identify A, B, and C. Remember, A and B don't matter, but C does. It's the one right across from the right angle. So we're going to say 3.1 squared plus x squared equal to 5.3 squared. So 3.1 squared is 9.61. 5.3 squared is 28.09. So we're going to subtract 9.61 from both sides. Which gives us 18.48. And then square root. And the square root of 18.48 is 4.2988, and it says to the nearest tenth, so that's 4.3. So let's take a look at this one. We see it's a right triangle, so we know we can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b don't matter which order, but c does. C is across from the right angle. So this time we have 40 squared plus 9 squared equals x squared. So 40 squared is 1600. 9 squared is 81. So we have 1681 equals x squared. So we need to square root. So we square root that number, and we get 41 centimeters. So those are just the different ways to use the Pythagorean theorem. If you have questions, look for the flipped follow-up or the help lab on your Class Connect schedule. Thanks so much.